Welcome to the Purpose Driven Executive Podcast, where we help you go from making your work your life to making your life work. We share true stories, interviews, and experiences that will help you, the hero, in your quest for passion and purpose. Higher purpose, higher productivity. This is the Purpose Driven Executive Podcast. What is up, people of purpose? Leaders in the business world, the world of commerce, and just leaders in general, those who go first. I have brought to you today, I have connected with this woman a while ago and had the pleasure of, we played a little tag, and then I feel like I feel like my big sister here. This is what I found. I'm not going to reveal what she does, but I'm going to tell you this. Go ahead and go over to LinkedIn and look up and follow Jean Nickerson. That's Jean with a J, Nickerson. And I'm just going to welcome you to the show. Jean, thanks for showing up here on the Purpose Driven Executive Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Donnie. You don't give yourself enough credit. You restored my faith in LinkedIn because you were one of the few people that reached out to me. We didn't know each other, and you sent a connection invite. And I'm always a little suspicious of those because 9 out of 10 people, they link in with you, and the first thing they want to do is pitch you. And you literally restored my faith in LinkedIn because you reached out really just to get to know me better and looked at my profile and saw what I did and thought I might be a person you'd want to talk to. And that is the nature of LinkedIn. It is not to connect and then try to pitch your services as soon as the person accepts.
Oh my gosh. And so I can't wait to dig into that part with you, Jean, because I think a lot of us, we have this thing out there and we're told all of these stories about how we should do things, and we do it and it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel right, but we do it anyway. And I think that's what's happening on LinkedIn. But Jean, before we go any further, right, this is Purpose Driven Executive. So tell us not what you do. Tell us, what does Jean Nickerson love?
Well, I love my family, so I should get that out. I do believe in family first. But what I really love is helping small business owners to be successful. And not just from a standpoint of making money and hiring people, but that they really enjoy their business. And it's my passion. And my passion is small businesses, predominantly family-run, service-based businesses. But I really like that joy. I've loved selling since I was a little girl. I started in university and thought I was going to actually go into be a dietitian, and took chemistry. And my brain is not hardwired. But I come from although my mom was a librarian and my dad was a engineer, you don't have to go back very far. You have my uncle, who was a very successful salesperson, and my father's father, who is a very successful salesperson. But I love sales. More importantly, I love evangelizing. That I really believe, people have said to me, do you think anybody can sell? And I believe that with 2 caveats. One is that you have to be curious. You have to be the kind of person that wants to double click on information, and you have to like people. But if you have those 2 qualifiers, that you're curious and you're always interested in learning something new and digging deep into a subject, and you like people, then I believe everything else can be trained. So that's what I'm passionate about. As far as what I do outside of my personal life, I love to read. I tell people this story that there's a Twilight Zone episode where Meredith Burgess is a person who has all the time in the world and all the books. And the last scene in the show is he breaks his glasses. So that's the irony. He has all the time and all the books, but now because he broke his glasses, he can't read. So I love reading, and it seems to be one of the things that I'm good for my business, because as I think we talked about before, I believe as a consultant that your job is to bring the insights to your customers, not to hand them a list of books and say, go read these books and figure it out.
Love it. Love it. I want to back up to something you said earlier. You said that you love helping people love their businesses. And a lot of times I know some of the people that you work with a lot are like those second generation business owners. And talk to me, Jean, tell us why do you feel like that's important to love the business, and how do you, how does one help someone to love their business?
So, so yes, I predominantly work with second generation family businesses. Actually, interestingly, I had a site visit for one of my customers, and the prospect is also a family run business in their third generation, 75 years. I think there are a couple things. I think that why I want them to love their business is it's that old saying, if you find something you love, you'll never work a day in your life. But the family-run businesses are really, they're doing a lot of good for their communities. They're loyal. They're not greedy. They really want that fair exchange of value. They really do. And the businesses I work with have great stories, but because they're in their second or third generation, Daddy started the business. Daddy's kind of walking out and winding it down. Unfortunately, I haven't met any mummies that are the third generation of the mummy started and owned the business. But I think one of the things is they, Daddy's always sort of called the shots, right? And this is just my experience, so I qualify it. And they have great stories, but the world has kind of changed around them. There's this thing called the internet, there's Google reviews, and they really just need somebody to show them how to share this amazing story they have in different channels that they've never used before. And so for me, the first thing it starts with is it really starts with finding their authentic value proposition. That one that they can live every day, twice on Sundays, they can close their eyes and they can do it. And that starts with interviewing their best customers, because there are two things that sort of I stand firmly against and almost have an aversion to, is people saying that I can sell to everybody. I can sell to people with skin. I can sell to people with socks. I can sell to people with legs. I really stand against that, because I also believe if you're serving all masters, you're serving none. And so their best customers are the people they like to do business with. They're the good referral partners. They're the people you go to get testimonials. They're the people that will sing your praises in a way that we really need social proof these days, that, people are buying online and they're getting hoodwinked or they're getting swindled. And so I really, for my clients, and I encourage everybody to check out before they do business with somebody, go check out what they look like online. And I think that online reputation serves two audiences. So because I work with family-run, service-driven businesses, labor is something that we constantly need to keep an eye on. We have to have a talent pipeline, because my ability to grow the business and drive pipeline is heavily dependent on the ability to serve the business. I've told people that, we can do all the marketing in the world, but when people get to our door, it's a bit like Walmart. Walmart can spend millions of dollars on advertising, but how would you feel if you walked in and the Walmart greeter flipped you the bird, right? And so that experience has to be evangelized through the organization. And I need to serve two audiences, more than two, but the two predominant audiences are my current and future employees and my customers. And I believe by treating your current employees and future employees very well, that will create the environment to deliver an exceptional customer experience. And Donnie, that 89% of B2B companies are predominantly competing on customer experience.
That is so powerful. Jean, I know that you are like the wizard of sales, right? In selling. I always have said that the number one way for more sales is to be magic with the sales you've already done, right? It's to fulfill your promise first off in a way that exceeds the expectations of your clients. And so I love that there's that customer service approach there. Talk to me, Jean. You're really big on story, right? Crafting your sales story from your DNA, from your strengths. Can you share with us maybe how you go about that or some things you've seen? Hey, thanks for being someone who is on this journey of purpose with me. And I am with you, my friend, and I've got something for you. Have you ever been moving towards purpose and sometimes it just looks like a big mess? Sure you have. We all have. And the reality is we're usually not going to get to a destination unless we have a roadmap. And that's exactly what I've created. If you will go to purposedrivenexecutive.com, you can get it for free. And this is the culmination of all of my studies, all of my coaching, all of even my own personal living. And I've created a very visual, very easy way for you to map out your purpose. This is for you. This is for people you're leading. This is for your family. Go on over right now, purposedrivenexecutive.com, and get your free map of purpose.
So yes, I am, because I've sold, and it's interesting, I'll just give a quick story, is that I did a presentation earlier this week to my business networking group, and one of the things that I think you would agree, and we've talked about before, is there are a lot of people out there saying that they can do sales coaching and consulting. But when you look at their experience and you look at the kinds of sales they've done, and the most recent one is, I won't say who the franchise is, but it's a massage therapist who's trying to do corporate sales and business coaching. And I'm like, right off the bat, you don't have the credibility. So I go back, because I've sold intangibles, the way you sell intangibles is you have to tell the story. You have to use analogies, because you're not coming in with a demo, right? You're coming in with, you basically have the stories of the pain, the people you found on the side of the road, and how you restored them to success. And so nothing tells that demonstration better than a story. And it's interesting, Harvard Business Review and lots of people have gotten into storytelling. But, if you look at the Druids, they were an oral history. Everything was passed down, and they resonate with us. And so what is my approach to the stories? The first thing that I look at is I do a lot of research, because the other bane of my existence is that people don't think that they have competition. And whether that's the status quo, whether that's, I was helping a woman today who has just opened a retirement residence, and the biggest objection she has is older people don't want to live in assisted living. So before she can even sell into why her place is the place to live, she has to sell into that. So I start with researching the competition. What is the biggest objection that somebody would have to do in a business with my client, right? What is it? Is it the market conditions? Is it perception? Is it reputation? What is that biggest objection? And I always believe that positioning, because market, people don't know the difference between what positioning and value prop is. Positioning is how what you do solves a category of problems. And you have to sell that first before you can even sell your services. You have to get alignment that what you do helps the customer. And once you're there, that's 50% of the equation. Then the second piece is how what you do sets you apart from your competitors. So I start with doing research and going out there and really getting familiar with what kind of the key industry trends are, kind of what people are looking for, where the competitors are positioned. So, because I know I'm saying it's interesting. I'm saying all these things I don't like, but it's like that's the old saying, you start with what you don't like before you understand what you like. So I also look at the competitors' online presence. And it's interesting when I go into an industry that all the companies end up taking the same approach that all their competitors do. You'll look at, it's almost cookie cutter websites that look the same. And my whole point is if you don't stand out, then you're no different than your competitors. So I do that first. Then I usually go in and I talk to the employees and sort of ask them what they hear from the market, right? Because they're on the ground and they're listening. And I ask lots of questions about, where do you see the opportunities? Where do you see the challenges? Had another guy, interestingly, that I'll get back to it, but quick story, who's in a plastics industry. And he's like, yes, single-use plastics are going away, and what he does is going away and it's being replaced by technology. But I said, it's interesting that in this time of looking for sustainable, advantages, a lot of people are using plastics for things that they don't want to have to repair all the time. I was at an amusement park, and all the railing now is plastic that looks like wood, right? So anyway, I do that. What are the challenges? What are we going to do? Where can we pivot to? What does it look like where we, because I have some customers that are going away, right? They're going to need to pivot to that next place to survive, right? So figuring out kind of where the market is going, what looks like it's going to be an opportunity that is going to be widely adopted, as opposed to a moonshot, which, in 10 or 15 years, but most of my clients don't have 10 or 15 years to figure out the moonshot. And then what I do is I get down to the real gritty of talking to customers and asking their customers. And I do that for two reasons. One is I did a lot of business with Home Depot in a previous life, and I'll remember they called her as part of a survey, and she brought up things that she saw as real value drivers, that they were the real things that made her buy, that I didn't see as really important. I have a client that's in an industry where if you need their service, you don't want to send an email, you want to speak to somebody. And so we put on their website that put us to the test. We always answer the phone. We always answer the phone. And in this day and age where I do prospecting, you do prospecting, that is a powerful commitment. It is a competitive differentiator, and it's a powerful commitment that you're making, that if you want to talk to us, we'll pick up the phone and we'll talk to you. So once I do that, I have a pretty good understanding of, and I know where they're positioned now, right? How they're positioning themselves to the marketplace now. And then I start to craft their story. Then I start to look at, how have they positioned themselves? How are their competitors positioned? Where do I think they're strong? What kind of customers do I think that they're aligned with, that are going to be the kind of customers that are not a one and done, but, that you build a relationship with, that you can add real value? Because my overriding principle in life is even or better odds. It's my overriding principle. So I have not too much information, but I have a Maltese cross tattooed on my shoulder. Implicitly, when I find people not off, it's like at the craps table. You put your $5 down and you'll walk away with your $5. You'll probably walk away with infinitely more, but you'll walk away with your $5. And then I start crafting the story. And then the other thing, once I've done that, created what the digital marketing, the social media, the LinkedIn, the website strategy is, then I start to target people and see, does this resonate? So without going wide, but does this in prospecting, does this messaging, does this value prop resonate? And from there, it's pretty quick to understand, have you nailed it? If you haven't nailed it, and I don't always nail it the first time out of the gate, sometimes I have to go back and tweak, but I nail it, and then I, do what I need to do and start to evangelize that message to our market, so that people, and I have, people like, wow, you've been there 30 years. How come I didn't know you existed? Because you didn't know the story.
Jean. So I'm gonna. This is really good stuff. I'm gonna slow it down for the audience a little bit. I'm just gonna say, like, hey, in the stages, this is what I'm furiously taking notes here. So the stages are, first off, identify your value proposition, and you do that through interviewing clients. It's a client testimonials, and from that you help bring and create a message of value, but also differentiation, so that the people in the company can understand, hey, here's actually what people see that you do out there. And then you turn that outward in the sales messaging and in the marketing. Like, Jean, have you ever come across someone who didn't understand their story and you were able to say, hey, you thought the story was this, but really it's that, and it made a big difference for them? What's your favorite?
Yeah, I have. The most recent client I have I had gotten up and done an infomercial and a networking, and he'd agreed to do business with me right away. And what he thought that he was doing was he needed sales help. And he is the perfect example. So he had been in business 11 years. He's a kitchen remodeler. Some competitors had come into the market, and he was basically getting beat up on price. That he believed that, you know, he had brought me into, he was going to get out of the business. Essentially, he was going to pivot right out of the business, but he needed to keep the business going in order to fund that pivot, right? And so what I recognized is when I started looking at, you know, how he was positioned, he didn't position any value. Like when you went to his website, and he got lots of reviews. He had really, really, we have Home Stars up. I'm a Canadian, so anyway, we have Home Stars, which is like an Angie's List, right? But more qualified than that for any sort of house cleaning, renovations, contracting, anything. You go there and you check your Home Star reviews. And he had a really good story, but everything that was positioned, and he was defensive. And that was the other thing. He was defensive so that he went into every sales situation believing that the customer only cared about price. And so it was a self-perpetuating, you know, thing. If you're defensive about price, you bring that out. You ask transactional questions, and
yeah.
That's the value. The essence of the value prop is, why does that work to make owners proud of their businesses? Because they sell themselves first on what a great story they have, and they have to do that before they can sell anybody else.
Yes.
But once they do, their shoulders go back. They literally, I think I told you, somebody said, what's the difference between you and a life coach? And I said, I can tell you exactly. I found this a couple of weeks ago. A life coach is, you have to get your life together before the business can get better. Mine is, a lot of people's lives get better when the business gets better. And if that's the differentiator for me, if your life is if your issues are about your business getting better and that's going to make your life better, I'm the right solution for you. If you need your life to get a whole lot better before the business can get better, then you need a life coach. But yeah, and so from there, what happened is we crafted his message. We had a lot of drill down on differentiation. We had a lot of drill down on where he wanted to be positioned. He had to do line extensions. So to serve the market he had to go up market, but to go up market, he couldn't do it with what he was offering. So he had to start interviewing partners, because in order to move up market, he was going to have to broaden the service that he offered. But within 10 weeks, he's like, we changed his qualification script. We asked, you know, the most important question, why now, right? Why now? Why are you calling us? Why are you interested? Why now? What's going on, right? And we redid his website. We played up the fact that most contractors who aren't reputable are not going to drive you to their reviews, that we evangelize position in the market. Before you consider any single supplier and what they have to offer, first check out that other people are happy with them, and that get that assurance that now, and it was funny how much there's, you know, kind of God whispering in your ear. I remembered yesterday that I had done a really big negotiation with somebody and had not done a credit check. And it was a hard-won negotiation, but I went to go, and at that point I did the background check, you know, I did the credit check, and he had an outstanding lawsuit against him. So I've now learned, okay, before we get deep and tight and start talking about marriage and meeting families, go check out their reputation. Go see what other people have to say about them. See that because you can weed out a lot of pain and sorrow by should I be talking to this person? Is this a person that I should consider?
Yeah, I want to pause right here, because I know that, Jean, you were really good at this. Life is too short to spend time with people, even clients, that suck. And you really help people to drill into their ideal customer and get rid of the crappy ones. Talk to us about why that's important, and how does one do that?
So going back to the value prop, right? You've got to know your value. You've got to know your value so you can defend your value, right? And so if you have no idea how you're different, you have no idea what the good story is, you have no idea that you have your fans, right? You're going to be a boat tossed around on the water. And my challenge, I have an old saying, and I'll try to clean it up, is coming from a line of salespeople, an uncle who was very clear about, I won't say it, but my dad said he used to walk out of sales calls and get in his car and say, F an idiot, right? But my dad and I actually teased about it because everybody was an F an idiot. And so I said to him at one point, I said, the common thing is they can't all be, F an idiots. At some point, the common theme is you, right? It's you that have attracted these people to you, right? So you have to first discuss that. Do you like what's going on? And I go back to the kitchen remodeler. He thought he needed a salesperson, right? He didn't need a salesperson. What he really needed to do is find his fans and fall in love with his business.
Yes.
And when I met him, he was closing 3 deals out of 70. So 3 out of 70. I was like, no wonder you hate your business. And he was going on site to do quotes. And so how do you find your fans? You go back to, who do you like to do business with? Who do you like? I'm a big believer. Your ideal customer looks a lot like you. They share the same interests. They have the same passions. Like the customer yesterday that family run business. People have been in the business 5 years. Why not go find more of those people? Because that's when you love your business. You'll like it because even when you're losing, you're talking to the kinds of people you like to talk to. You don't win everybody who's your ideal customer, but even as you're going through the discovery and the qualification, you like talking to those people even as they're saying no to you.
Come on.
So I say one thing I say is, nice and a small guy, we do business. Big and a jerk, there's a chance we'll do business. Small and a jerk, no time in the world.
Jean, why do you think this takes courage, right, to step into that? Why do you think so many businesses out there will do business with whosoever, right? Whosoever walks across or picks up the phone or whatever. How do we get from the place where we're doing whatever it takes to survive to going to the place where we're thriving and we're literally building something that lets us spend the rest of our lives with the people we love the most?
So the first thing, going back to value, is really understand. Once you've done all that analysis, you know where you're positioned in the market. You know where your pricing needs to be, right? And so at that point, you know where your value is. You know where you're stratified in your industry. And it's been my experience that most people don't have a defensible pricing strategy. And so therefore, they're at the whims of a very aggressive, smart market. The reason people ask for discounts is 70% of salespeople will cave to a minimum of a 10% discount on the first ask. They'll say, oh, come on, Jean, we're so close. Don't you want to get this deal done today? Just come down. And then because you're busy and you're reacting and you're working in the business as opposed to on the business, you go, yep, and that's a slippery slope. And then what happens is 50% of your customers become price buyers. And why should your value customers that you like to deal with pay more because you're abusing them because they're good and nice and they pay their bills? That is not aligned with what I believe. Your best customer should be treated better than a walk-in. I have a client, their walk-in rate is a premium. Now, you want to sign up, you want to be somebody who has a respectful relationship with their business, then we have our regular customer rates, but our walk-in rate is a premium, not a discount.
Yeah, and I've seen this too, and you tell me if you think this is true, Jean. I feel like that, obviously, emotions are a big factor when we're making decisions in any part of our lives. And when people are wearing that entrepreneurial hat, they are exhausted. And when they're facing a lot of these selling opportunities, it feels like they're not functioning in this, from this place of love. And first off, acceptance of their own message and and the people they love and want to work with the most. But really, it's almost like fear is engaged, and there's a fight or flight thing, and it's almost like they act uncharacteristic in those times.
Well, you've nailed this innovative. So if we think it as a service life cycle or a product life cycle, we know that it's a bell curve, right? And somewhere before your business tails off and dies, you need to bifurcate. Every business goes through it, whether they're entrepreneurial and they need to put process in place, or, they're growing and they need to, start to have rules around. So you have to bifurcate at some point. If you can grind a business with over process the business till you grind it to a halt, but you have to bifurcate. And what that takes courage, because most people, the mouse and the cheese will stay on the course until they die. It's, that whole analogy of the frog in the pot. You just you can't throw a frog into boiling water because it'll jump out, but you can kill a frog by putting it in the regular temperature water and turning up the heat. And where I get them is this is where the difference for me is critical, is that I have no choice but to reinvent my business. I have no choice. I am open to all suggestions because I've tried to do this myself and I'm not getting the results I want. So I am open to all suggestions of how to get this back on track and get back to a place where I can grow. My people are employed. I have an environment where I can offer opportunities to new employees so I can grow. But they literally have come to that realization. Some of them are referrals. Some of them find me directly, but they're like, and I have one caveat, which is, so why 50% of people don't want to do anything different. They want to complain. They want to be a victim. They want people to commiserate. They're the frog in the pot. Doesn't it suck to boil, right? And then 50% are like, you know what? I don't want that. And those people, because I get stuff done, you want your world to look different. You really want it to be different. I can make that happen for you. I can make that happen, but you're going to have to commit and be all in. But it'll be so much better. It's sort of like quitting drinking. You can't let you go, why didn't I do this sooner? Because your life is just so much better, but it takes a big commitment. And it's been my experience that 50% of people really just want to complain and want to have somebody to get into the pity party and the wallowing in the misery. And 50%, are looking for a change. Now, it's not to say all 50% do it, but they're at least open to what I'm doing now isn't working for me.
So, Jean, there's a group. Well, let me back up. Glenn Ross, right? The famous sales movie, and it was the sales. It was all about the leads, getting the leads. And I know that you are someone that helps in that part of it too. Once you know your story, you have to know who actually cares about that. But you are one of the few people I've ran into out there that understands the value of a target-rich environment called trade associations. And I love that that's a strategy that you often deploy. Can you share with us a little bit about that and how everyone should be putting a trade association to use for what they're doing?
Yeah. So you're going to, if I've positioned you correctly and you're where I usually find you, you are not meeting your ideal client. They're finding you by accident, right? So you now are going to have to go into some bigger pools and you're going to have to start swimming, right? You got your sexy, you got your body buff, you got your new Speedo on, and you're going to have to go start swimming. And what I like about trade associations is I get the affiliation. I get the social proof that I'm a member. And so for most businesses that are going to go where they've never gone before, it's a nice sort of, life preserver that you put around you because you have a common association. And people are at least willing, because of that association, to listen. maybe not give you a lot of time. You might get 10 seconds, but because you're going into a place where you haven't gone before. The other thing too is they're going to need to stretch themselves, because this new value prop they're wearing, this new Speedo and body, habits are powerful. It's very hard to change the habits. So they've got to go out there and stretch themselves. And you're going to go into an association, you're going to meet some really big people. I mean, I'll never forget that I had an SVP of Walmart call me back. He didn't have a need for my services, but he respected me enough to call me back and say, hey, Jean, and I'm linked in with them now. I'm linked into an SVP at Walmart because I did an outreach about, we're part of this association. This is what I know about you. Is this something you might be interested in? And he wasn't, because he has a completely different solution for his business. But he did call me back to kindly let me know that this wasn't something he was interested in.
That is powerful. I love the idea too, that if you go in, let's just say you provide something that everyone within that group needs, it gives you a leg up, at least to meet what your ideal customer looks like, right? You get to meet and rub shoulders with these people and find out their stories, and you can figure out where yours intersects. But it's just again, you're finding that target-rich environment. And if you really are invested in the cause together, then they'll do what the SVP of Walmart did with you. They'll pick up the phone, right? Because you're going in the same direction.
Well, and you now have defensible value. You can defend your value. So when you're as I said, even as you're prospecting, you're talking to people you like to talk to. So even though the SVP called me back to say he didn't have a need for my services, I remember that conversation. I enjoyed the conversation. It made me think better about Walmart. And I said such. I'm a big fan of Walmart. I think the world is divided into Amazon and Walmart. I'm on the Walmart side of that equation. But it left me with a positive impression about his company. And I think that's the thing about prospecting. I think that you can do prospecting where you escalate the game to, this is just an outreach to see if we're aligned. It's nothing. I'm not even going to try to sell you now. I just want to see if we're aligned, right? Are we aligned where this could even be a possibility? And now you're meeting the people you like to work with. You're meeting the top of the game. So in your association, you're going to meet companies like you, but you're going to also be exposed to some companies that are really at the top of their game, your industry leaders. And you can learn a lot from them. I always say I'm teasing everybody, I'm going to a business networking event. It's an unqualified one. And I'm calling it the business hoedown, right? It's a business hoedown. I'm just going to go check it out for the first time and see what it's like. But, I firmly believe that when you walk into a room, you want to see that the leader's at a 9 or a 10. You want to see those leaders, who's the board, who are the influencers, are they at a 9 or a 10? Because they're going to track 9s and below. If you look at that leader or that board or that whatever, and you go, holy crap, that's a 5 or a 6. I don't stay, because I know that they're only going to track 5 and 6 and belows.
Yeah.
And that's how I do it. And so your industry association, the good ones, there are some really fantastic people running it who are good business people. And at the very least, you're going to learn something that you can use, take away, that can make your business better.
I love it. Jean, this has been wonderful and powerful. And we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. But I want to bring it back to the beginning of what we said, with so many people unleashing so much immediate, quick sell tactics on. It's not really sell tactics. It's just kind of a throw up tactic to throw something against the wall to see if it sticks on LinkedIn. Can you give us just a parting shot, maybe combine a little bit of what you just now mentioned of connecting with 9s and 10s? How does that happen? I love your phrase of this is an outreach just to see if we're aligned, not to pitch or anything like that. But can you address that? And then can you tell our listeners where they can follow you, get in touch with you, and all of those things?
Yep. So so what I think on LinkedIn is we are defined as salespeople by the worst example of our profession. And so unfortunately, LinkedIn, it is very hard to do cold outreach. So the very first thing, and I have a 5-star on InMails. My InMails are returned a lot, right? Unless I'm doing recruiting. Recruiting, you know, is a little different. I don't get quite the receptivity. But as far as outreach to either potential prospects or influencers or people, I have and it's because I do a little bit of research about them. I do a little bit of research about why would I want to connect with this person? Why would this person want to speak to me? That kind of like initial olive branch of this, and I can get rid of 90% of the people just with that. The second one is when people do cold outreach to me, I set the expectation of sending back a reply as I did with you. Are you looking at me as an active prospect? Is the reason that you've reached out to me because you want to pitch? And most people don't even respond because that was their intention, so I've called it out as an expectation. And other people will say, no, that's not why. I just want to, as I did with you. No, just would like to see if we're aligned. And if you do those things, but again, it's all about defend your value. Right? Why are you worth my time? And you reached out to me, so you have to defend your value before I start defending mine. And if you do that, put that front and center in your mind of people are busy, but everybody loves a bargain. Everybody loves a bargain. And if you're that bargain human being, that handy human being, that holy crap, I can't believe I got to meet like I feel about you. You reached out to me on LinkedIn and completely restored my faith in the platform because we're on this call now. That's how you can be that to somebody else. You can be that person on LinkedIn who everybody says, I had this amazing connection on LinkedIn. You're never going to believe it. And you could be the person that starts that story.
Love it.
So your last question was, where can they find me? So I'm a big believer in LinkedIn. I actually will tell you, it's one of the few times that somebody bought a platform that it went on to be a better thing. So I was very concerned when Microsoft bought LinkedIn. I was very, very concerned, and people tried to get me to join other social platforms. And I loved it. I mean, I joined. You know, I was back when thousands of people joined LinkedIn. I can remember the person who invited me. It was Ted Reed, who worked for Bose Corporation, and he did marketing, and I was a supplier to him, and he invited me to this thing. And he was in Boston, and I was in Toronto. But I respected him, so I joined this platform. I love this platform. So you can follow me, Jean Nickerson, on LinkedIn. And I'd love to talk to you. I'd love to, if you're asking, you know, for an insight or just want an opinion, I believe the first way you demonstrate value is you put out what you eat your own dog food. I'll take the dance around the dance floor with anybody a couple of times and test it out because you don't know where it can go. And I'll leave with the last thought, the very last thought is everybody has their fans and their detractors. Right? They always do. And, you know, most really quality human beings, in my experience, have a little bit of polarization in their personality. But I don't know. So I say to people, there are people you instantly like who degrade over time. And there are other people that we know are the people that we really love. They kind of irritated us the first time we met them. But we stuck it out a bit longer because they were adding some value, and you thought, well, what have I got to lose? And they're the people that you love the most today. So I don't know who the people I'm going to love the most, but I understand that may not start out with them being exactly the most charming people up front.
Jean, I love it. Everyone go follow her, connect with Jean Nickerson. Thank you for spending time with us today. And Jean, I feel like I learned not just about business, but about love. You know, well, I mean, I'm married, so it doesn't apply to me, but listen, go to where the 9s and 10s are. Know what your value is, align with that, walk with confidence from that, and find other people who are in love with you. Stop spending time with the curmudgeons who make you hate your life. Listen, you can have a life and a business that you are in love with. Jean, thanks for sharing that with us today. And for the audience, yeah, yeah, thanks for being with us. It's been a fun time.
Thank you, Donnie. Talk to you later. Have a good weekend.
Take care.